Have you ever wondered why so many people, after the age of 40, quietly lose their spark? Why dreams fade, relationships grow distant, and life turns into a series of dull routines? This isn't about fate, it's about silent choices that slowly steal your joy. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden reasons why most people fail miserably after 40, and how you can make sure you're not one of them. If you find value here, remember to like the video and subscribe so together we can keep exploring the deeper stories of life. Chasing youth instead of embracing growth. Picture this: a man in his late 40s standing before the mirror, pulling at the skin on his face, searching for traces of the boy he once was. Or a woman spending thousands on potions and procedures, hoping to reclaim the bloom of 20. It's a silent, desperate chase, one that so many fall into after 40. When the subtle lines deepen, the body responds slower, and the vitality of youth seems to slip like water through clenched fists. Why do we cling so fiercely to the illusion of eternal youth? Is it vanity alone, or something deeper? Perhaps it's fear of becoming irrelevant, fear of mortality, fear of admitting that we are changing. But here lies a quiet tragedy. By chasing after the fleeting shadow of who we were, we overlook the profound beauty of who we are becoming. Life, after all, was never meant to be a flat line of perpetual youth. Imagine if the trees refused to shed their leaves each autumn, stubbornly clutching the green of summer. Would they ever experience the quiet majesty of winter's bare grace, or the astonishing renewal of spring? In the same way, our lives are meant to unfold in seasons. Each decade offers gifts the last could not. Yet many, hitting 40, panic. They buy sports cars they don't need, chase lovers who mirror their younger fantasies, or bury themselves in nostalgia. They try to halt time with surgery, with parties, with denial. But underneath it all is a sorrow, a sense that something precious is slipping away. And yes, youth is precious, but so is wisdom. So is the deeper calm that tends to settle in our hearts after years of storms. So is the ability to see life's patterns, to savor moments we once rushed past. Isn't it strange how, when we were young, we longed to grow up, yet once grown, we scrambled to turn back the clock? What if, instead of frantically chasing youth, we learned to embrace growth? Imagine greeting your 40s and 50s not with dread, but with a quiet smile, acknowledging the roads you've walked, each wrinkle, a tiny memoir, each gray hair, a whisper of endurance. Your eyes hold stories now of love found and lost, of challenges met, of joys so deep they nearly broke you open. There's a Japanese art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with veins of gold. The cracks aren't hidden, they're illuminated, celebrated. The bowl becomes more beautiful for having been broken. What if we looked at our aging selves that way? What if we wore our years like threads of gold, proof that we've lived, that we've endured, that we've loved enough to be marked by it? So many people fail miserably after 40 because they refuse to see the new chapter as worthwhile. They believe the best days are behind them, that their relevance, attractiveness, and potential have an expiration date. This belief quietly poisons their choices. They stop daring. They stop dreaming. They stand still while time marches on, resentful of the very thing that also brings them wisdom. But think about it. Some of the world's greatest achievements were born from people well past 40. Vera Wang didn't design her first dress until she was 40. Samuel L. Jackson landed his breakout role at 46. Colonel Sanders franchised KFC at 65. Age did not diminish them, it seasoned them, refined their grit. So why should it be any different for you? Perhaps the question isn't, How can I stay young forever? But how can I grow richer in spirit, in character, in compassion as I age? Instead of chasing youth, chase authenticity, chase purpose. Chase experiences that leave your heart a little more tender, your mind a little more open. Stand before the mirror, not to mourn the passing of time, but to honor it. Trace those lines at the corners of your eyes, and remember the nights you laughed until tears came. Feel the weight of your body, and know it has carried you faithfully through countless days. Smile at the person staring back, because that person is still growing, still capable of breathtaking transformation. And in doing so, perhaps you'll find something far better than lost youth. You'll find a peace that doesn't hinge on smooth skin or fleeting beauty, a joy that deepens with the years rather than fading. You'll stop failing at life after 40 because you'll finally understand the point was never to stay the same. The point was to keep evolving, to keep loving, to keep becoming all the way to the very end. Settling into comfort zones too deeply. Have you ever noticed how easy it becomes, after 40, to simply settle? To slip into routines so deep they feel like grooves carved into stone. The same coffee shop, the same drive to work, the same safe conversations. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, comfort wraps around you like a warm, familiar blanket. But what if that very comfort is the silent architect of your failures? When we are young, discomfort is almost expected. We bounce from job to job, city to city, relationship to relationship, chasing opportunities and testing boundaries. Our 20s and 30s are marked by boldness, by the willingness to stumble. But once 40 arrives with its mortgages, its aging parents, its predictable paychecks, we start to bargain with ourselves. We tell stories that sound like wisdom but are often just fear in disguise. I'm too old to start over. It's better to be safe than sorry. This is just how life is now. Have you ever whispered these lines to yourself? They might sound reasonable, even prudent. Yet underneath, there often lurks a hidden dread of uncertainty, of failure, of embarrassment. So we stay put. We keep the same circle of friends who rarely challenge us. We stick with a career that feels stale but pays the bills. We avoid hard conversations in our marriages because rocking the boat feels too risky. But comfort, over time, becomes a slow poison. It dulls your curiosity. It steals your appetite for risk. It convinces you that today is good enough. So why reach for something more? Before long, years slip by. And then, in quieter moments, a question starts to echo. Is this really all there is? Consider, this nature never truly stays still. Rivers carve new paths. Trees grow taller or fall, and give way to new saplings. Even the stars in the heavens burn out and are replaced by new ones. Stagnation is, in many ways, unnatural, and yet humans cling to it, especially as we age, mistaking it for security. Do you remember the last time you felt truly alive? That electric pulse of possibility when you tried something new, moved to a different city, started a passion project, spoke up in a room where your voice trembled? That feeling isn't reserved for the young, it's reserved for the brave. And bravery doesn't expire at 40. It just requires a bit more conscious effort. Many people fail miserably after 40 because they stop pushing themselves into new territories. They fear discomfort so much that they build small cages out of daily habits. The irony is that the very security they cling to often becomes their prison. They wake up at 50 or 60 and wonder why they feel restless, even though nothing is wrong. But perhaps that's precisely the problem. Nothing is ever wrong because nothing ever changes. What if, instead, you treated your comfort zone like a soft bed on a cold morning, pleasant, yes, but not a place to live your entire day? What if you deliberately did things that scared you a little? Started that side business you've been dreaming about? Took dancing lessons despite your two left feet? Reached out to someone you admire for mentorship? Or even traveled solo, just to remember how vast and vibrant the world still is? Stepping out of comfort doesn't always mean making drastic changes. Sometimes it's as simple as asking deeper questions, being vulnerable in a way you've avoided, reading books that challenge your beliefs, saying yes when your instinct is to say no. Imagine how your life could look if you made discomfort a friend rather than an enemy. If you treated every decade not as a winding down, but as a new frontier. The truth is, comfort zones are rarely about comfort alone. They're about control. And while control can feel safe, it rarely makes you grow. So pause for a moment. Ask yourself, where have I settled too deeply? What small risks could I take to disrupt my routine? The answers might scare you, and that's a sign you're on to something real. Because in the end, a life spent only in comfort may be calm, but it is rarely memorable. It rarely fulfills the quiet, urgent yearning inside you to stretch, to discover, to become. And it is often this very shrinking of our world that leads so many, after 40, to fail not with loud, catastrophic crashes, but with a soft, lifelong sigh of what might have been. So, pull back the blanket, step out into the chill, let your pulse quicken. Because beyond the edges of your comfort zone lies a life still waiting to be lived, no matter how many candles were on your last birthday cake. Neglecting health until it screams for attention. Think of your body as the quietest, most loyal companion you will ever have. It carries you through every sunrise, every heartbreak, every success. It does its best to heal your wounds, to adapt to your habits, to keep you standing even when you make choices that burden it. But after 40, many people start to learn a harsh truth. You can no longer get away with what you did at 20. The late nights, the careless meals, the skipped workouts, the stress you shrug off, they all begin to collect their debt. Slowly at first, almost politely. A little extra weight here, a twinge in the knee there, a harder time falling asleep. You dismiss it, blame it on a busy season, promise yourself you'll do better next month. Until one day, your body stops whispering and starts shouting. A diagnosis, a chronic pain that will not leave, a sudden scare that shakes you to your core. It's frightening how often people wait until they're forced, until the doctor sits them down with somber eyes before they begin to pay attention. Why is it so easy to neglect our health? Perhaps because the consequences are invisible at first. The body is forgiving up to a point. It absorbs the fast food, the unbroken hours at the desk, the bottled up stress, until it can't. Then it reveals the bill, often when we least expect it. So many fail after 40 because they live as if health is a guarantee, not a fragile gift. They prioritize careers, family obligations, fleeting pleasures, all valid, all important. But they forget that without health, everything else becomes harder to enjoy, if not impossible. Imagine trying to travel the world with aching joints, to play with your grandchildren while breathless from simple exertion, to build a business when chronic fatigue keeps you tethered to your bed. It's not melodrama. It's the reality many face because they treated their health as an afterthought. Yet there's hope in this awareness. 40 is not too late. In fact, it can be a profound turning point. Your body is astonishingly capable of repair. With better choices, it often responds with surprising grace. Muscles strengthen. The heart grows more efficient. the brain sharpens. Even your mood lifts, because movement and nourishment are as vital for the mind as they are for the flesh. So what if, instead of pushing health to the bottom of your priorities, you placed it at the top? What if you approached caring for your body not as punishment for past neglect, but as an act of profound gratitude? Feeding it vibrant foods, giving it sleep, not just as a necessity but as a sacred ritual. Moving it daily, not with dread, but with a sense of celebration, marveling that you can walk, run, stretch, dance. And don't forget the invisible threads connecting body and mind. Chronic stress is a silent killer, yet we often wear it like a badge of honor. After 40, stress accumulates more visibly. Your cortisol levels spike higher. Your body takes longer to calm down. Meditation, deep breathing, even simple quiet time away from screens can help uncoil the tension that might otherwise grow into disease. It's easy to dismiss these ideas as common sense. Yes, everyone knows they should eat better, exercise more, manage stress, but knowing is not doing. And after 40, the gap between those two widens dramatically. Doing becomes urgent because the stakes grow higher. So pause for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. Notice your breath. This is your body faithfully carrying you right now. Ask yourself, what small choices today could honor that gift? Could you take a 20-minute walk after dinner instead of collapsing on the couch? Could you swap the late-night snack for a glass of water? Could you choose to turn off your phone an hour earlier and let your mind drift peacefully into sleep? Because here's the hard truth. Your health will demand your attention eventually. The question is whether it will whisper gently now, inviting you to care for it, or whether it will scream later, forcing you to face what you've long ignored. People fail after 40 not because age makes it inevitable, but because they live in ways that disrespect the miraculous machine that is their own body. They delay self-care until it becomes crisis care. But you don't have to follow that script. Start small. Be patient. Be consistent. See each good choice not as deprivation, but as a profound vote for your future. A future where you can still explore, still laugh without catching your breath, still embrace life fully. Because in the end, isn't that the point? Not just to live long, but to live well. To keep your body strong enough to chase your dreams, hold your loved ones close, and walk with grace into every decade ahead. Clinging to outdated dreams and regrets. Have you ever caught yourself replaying an old memory, wishing you could slip back into that moment and choose differently? Or maybe you still hold tightly to a dream you first sketched out in your 20s, even though it no longer fits the person you've become. So many people over 40 fail to find real satisfaction because they live in the echo chamber of yesterday, clutching regrets like treasured relics, or chasing goals that have quietly expired. They spend precious mental and emotional energy propping up old visions of who they were supposed to become, without ever pausing to ask, who am I now, and what do I truly want today? Regrets are tricky. They masquerade as lessons, but often they're just old wounds we keep reopening. We tell ourselves stories like, if only I'd taken that job, if only I hadn't married so young, if only I'd saved more money, and with every if only, we tighten the chains that bind us to the past. But life is not lived backward. No matter how vividly you replay that scene, it remains unchanged. Meanwhile, the present, the only place you can actually create something new, waits quietly for your attention. Then there are outdated dreams. These are the ambitions you formed when you were still half-formed yourself. Perhaps you once longed to be a famous musician, or a CEO, or to live in a bustling city. And while those were beautiful aspirations, maybe they no longer resonate with the person you've become. Maybe now your deepest longing is for peace, or for meaningful relationships, or to pour your energy into mentoring others. Yet many people keep striving toward those old dreams out of habit, or pride, or fear of admitting they've changed. They push forward on autopilot, scaling ladders that lean against the wrong walls. And when they reach the top, they're met not with joy, but with a hollow ache. Have you ever asked yourself, is this dream still truly mine, or is it a ghost from my past? It's a hard question, because it often means mourning the person you thought you would be. But there's also immense freedom in it. Letting go of outdated dreams makes space for new ones that align with your life now, not your life 20 years ago. And what about the weight of regret? What would happen if you treated your regrets not as punishments, but as teachers who have done their work and are ready to leave? Each regret likely shaped you in ways you can't even measure, made you more compassionate, more discerning, more resilient. Could you thank those memories for their lessons and then gently release them? There's a quiet power in acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve of every mistake you've made or every twist your life took. It simply means you stop arguing with reality. You stop spending energy wishing for a different past and start investing it in creating a better present. Imagine how much lighter your heart would feel if you laid down those heavy bundles of regret and stale ambition. Imagine what new dreams might rise up in the space you cleared. Perhaps dreams of writing a book, even if no one reads it but your grandchildren, of moving to a simpler place where sunrises matter more than paychecks, of learning a craft purely for the joy of it. So many people fail after 40 because they live trapped between who they were and who they never quite became. Meanwhile, the person they are and could still grow into waits patiently for recognition. You don't owe your past self anything but understanding. You are allowed to evolve, to pivot, to say, that was what I wanted then. This is what I want now. And if you carry regrets, let them be gentle signposts, not anchors. Let them remind you of what matters most. So you don't repeat old mistakes, but don't let them steal the joy from today. Because today is still pliable, still bursting with potential, still waiting for you to mold it into something beautiful. Ask yourself, what outdated dream am I chasing that no longer serves me? What regret am I nursing that needs to be forgiven? The answers might sting, but they will also liberate you. Because life after 40 is not meant to be a sad epilogue to your youth. It can be a breathtaking new chapter if you have the courage to unclench your grip on the past and reach, with open hands, for what's waiting ahead. Losing the spark of curiosity and learning. Do you remember how curious you were as a child? How every bug under a rock, every new face, every why and how seemed to spill effortlessly from your lips? Somewhere along the way, many of us lose that spark. And by the time we reach 40, we often accept this dulling as normal, even inevitable. But is it truly? Or have we simply stopped feeding the fires of our own wonder? It's startling how many people, once they hit middle age, slip into mental autopilot. They master their profession, build a routine, and stop asking questions. Their world becomes smaller not because the world itself shrinks, but because their curiosity does. They read the same kinds of books if they read at all. They speak only with people who think like them. They quietly avoid new skills, afraid of looking foolish. Yet curiosity is the very lifeblood of growth. It's what keeps your mind agile, your spirit light, your conversations textured. Without it, life flattens. Days begin to feel like mere repetitions of one another. And soon, Stagnation, that subtle cousin of failure, takes hold. Think about the people you admire most. Are they necessarily the ones who've accumulated the most wealth or accolades? Or are they often those who, regardless of age, radiate a kind of playful engagement with the world? They still ask why. They still wonder. They still allow themselves to be surprised. Why does this matter so much after 40? Because this is the age when the mind starts to favor efficiency over exploration. Your brain literally trims away unused neural connections, conserving energy for familiar patterns. If you don't challenge it with new ideas, it becomes ever more committed to the well-worn grooves of habit. That's how people become rigid, opinionated, even bitter, not overnight, but slowly. As their curiosity starves, they stop entertaining new perspectives. They mistake their accumulated knowledge for final truth. They no longer marvel at how vast and intricate the world still is. But it doesn't have to be that way. The brain is marvelously adaptable. Neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself, does not expire at 40 or 50 or even 70. You simply have to give it reasons to grow. So what would it look like to reignite your curiosity? It doesn't require going back to school or traveling to remote countries, though those help. Sometimes it's as simple as reading a genre you'd usually ignore, taking up a hobby you're absolutely terrible at, sitting down with someone a generation younger or older and genuinely listening without the urge to correct or debate. Try asking questions again, not just of others, but of yourself. Why do I believe what I believe? What's something I've never explored that might thrill me? How can I look at this ordinary day through new eyes? Many people fail miserably after 40 because they let their minds close in on themselves. They confuse comfort with wisdom, repetition with mastery, and slowly, they lose the capacity to be delighted, to be challenged, to be truly alive mentally. Imagine instead becoming a person who remains vibrantly curious well into your later decades, who learns to paint at 50, starts studying philosophy at 60, or takes dance classes at 70, who reads widely, listens deeply, and keeps asking questions that don't always have neat answers. Curiosity is a kind of youthful energy all its own. It keeps your brain limber, your spirit humble, your heart receptive. It also builds resilience, because when you approach life with curiosity, setbacks become puzzles to solve rather than verdicts on your worth. And isn't that a beautiful way to age? Not by closing doors, but by opening new ones, even if they lead you down messy, unfamiliar corridors. So pause here and gently ask yourself, when was the last time I truly learned something new, simply for the joy of it? When did I last risk feeling ignorant just to expand my horizons? The spark of curiosity never really dies. It might lie buried under years of routine and unchecked pride, but it waits patiently. All it needs is your invitation to wake up, and when it does, you'll find that life, even after 40, is still vast and startling and full of things to explore, if only you have the courage to keep asking why. Allowing relationships to wither without care. Imagine a beautiful garden. In your 20s and 30s, you might have planted it enthusiastically. Friendships blossomed easily. Love grew wild and bright. Connections sprang up with little prompting. But after 40, many people assume the garden will keep thriving on its own. They get busy. They get tired. They take the flowers for granted, forgetting that without water and gentle tending, even the strongest blooms fade. And so, quietly, relationships begin to wither. Why does this happen? Partly because life grows undeniably complicated after 40. Careers often peak in demand. Children require intense care or begin to leave the nest, stirring unexpected emptiness. Parents age, bringing new responsibilities. The swirl of it all leaves little room for the nurturing of adult friendships, for slow evenings spent talking without a clock ticking over your head. Romantic relationships, too, can slip into autopilot. The person you once adored becomes so familiar, their presence starts to feel like background noise. You talk logistics more than dreams. You share a house, but not necessarily your deepest thoughts. The rituals that once connected you, long walks, soft laughter in bed, thoughtful surprises, vanish under the weight of busy schedules and quiet fatigue. This is one of the saddest reasons many people fail after 40. They wake up one day and find themselves profoundly alone, even if surrounded by people. Their friendships are superficial, their marriages threadbare, their hearts walled off from meaningful intimacy. By the time they notice, the distance can feel almost impossible to bridge. Yet relationships are rarely lost all at once. They fade through small neglects, the unanswered text, the dinner canceled with a flimsy excuse, the decision to stay silent rather than risk an uncomfortable conversation. Each tiny moment seems harmless, but over time, they build into a cold, echoing distance. It's important to remember that relationships don't thrive on history alone. Having known someone for 20 years doesn't guarantee closeness if the last 10 were marked by neglect. Love in all its forms requires deliberate tending. It demands vulnerability, time, and effort, the very things that grow scarcer as we age. But what if you chose differently? What if you treated your relationships as living, breathing entities that needed sunlight and nourishment? Consider the friends who've stood by you across the years. When was the last time you reached out, not out of obligation, but out of genuine interest in their heart? Not just, how's work, but how is your spirit these days? Or think about your partner, if you have one. Do they still feel seen by you? Do you touch them with the same tenderness you once did? Do you carve out space to laugh together, to be silly, to remind each other why you first fell in love? And what about family siblings, aging parents, even grown children? The temptation after 40 is to believe these bonds are sturdy enough to survive on their own. But often, they're quietly hoping you'll reach out, offer forgiveness, share stories, express love that's gone unspoken for too long. People often fail after 40 because they allow busyness to justify emotional distance. They forget that relationships are among the richest sources of meaning we ever have. A successful career cannot hold your hand in the night. Money cannot laugh with you over shared memories. Accomplishments do not weep with you at funerals or celebrate with you at weddings. It's relationships that make the journey worthwhile. And yet, ironically, they are often the first casualties when life grows heavy. So pause and take honest stock. Who in your life feels neglected right now? Which relationships have become transactional or brittle? What small gestures could begin to heal that distance? A handwritten note, a phone call without multitasking, an apology long overdue. Relationships don't always require grand gestures. Often, it's the tiny, consistent acts of care that rebuild trust and warmth. Listening without distractions, remembering small details, offering a compliment without motive, showing up again and again, even when it's inconvenient. Because in the end, when the years stretch behind you and your accomplishments gather dust, it's the faces and voices of those you've loved and who've loved you back that will matter most. Don't let your garden die from simple neglect. Water it, pull the weeds, sit among the flowers and marvel at their beauty. Because life after 40 can still be breathtakingly rich, especially if you tend carefully to the hearts walking alongside your own. Measuring life by others' standards. Have you ever paused, truly paused, to ask yourself whose script you are living, whose applause you are chasing? It's a haunting question, especially after 40, when many realize they've spent decades measuring their worth by rulers someone else designed. Perhaps it started innocently, wanting your parents' approval, your teachers' praise, your peers' respect, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, it grows into something more suffocating. You choose a career that sounds impressive, buy a house in the right neighborhood, attend parties that bore you, because somewhere deep inside, you believe your life must look a certain way to be valid. After 40, this game of measuring yourself against others often becomes even more intense. You look around and see friends who seem more successful, with bigger houses, leaner bodies, more idyllic family photos on social media. You compare their highlight reels to your unfiltered moments and find yourself lacking. Isn't it strange how even in midlife, when we should be anchored in who we are, so many of us still crave external validation like we did at 16? This constant comparison is one of the quietest thieves of joy. It's also a powerful reason why people fail after 40. Not because they lack talent, drive, or goodness, but because they spend their precious energy chasing someone else's dream. They climb ladders leaned against walls that never truly mattered to them, and when they finally reach the top, they are met not with triumph, but with emptiness. Whose standards are you living by? Society's, which often equates worth with wealth and beauty. Your parents, who perhaps imposed dreams they never fulfilled themselves. Your peers, who unintentionally make you feel small by showcasing curated moments of their lives. There's a profound freedom in realizing you don't have to play this game anymore. By 40, you've earned the right and perhaps the responsibility to define success on your own terms. Maybe for you, success is a quiet life surrounded by books and dogs. Maybe it's building a small business that pays the bills and lets you be present with your children. Maybe it's dedicating your time to a cause larger than yourself, or traveling lightly from place to place, collecting experiences rather than possessions. But you'll never know what genuinely fulfills you if you're forever glancing sideways, taking your cues from others. Comparison is, in many ways, a lazy metric. It's easier to measure your house, your paycheck, your body against someone else's than it is to dig deep and ask, what actually matters to me? What would my life look like if I stripped away the need to impress? When you measure by other standards, even your wins can feel hollow. You buy the car, get the promotion, throw the lavish party, and still lie awake at night wondering why you're not truly happy. Because deep down, your soul knows this was never what it most desired. What if instead you made space to listen inward, to understand your own values, your own definitions of enough? It takes courage. It might mean disappointing people who expected you to live differently. It might mean downsizing, or changing careers, or letting go of certain social circles. But the peace that comes from living in alignment with your own heart is worth more than any fleeting admiration. Think of the people you admire most, not for their wealth or beauty, but for how comfortably they inhabit their own lives. Often they radiate a quiet, unshakable contentment, precisely because they've stopped measuring by anyone else's yardstick. They've defined success in a way that's deeply personal, and they refuse to apologize for it. So pause and reflect. Whose approval are you still chasing? What invisible standards are you trying to meet? And what would it look like to measure your life only by your own values? People often fail after 40 because they never stop to ask these questions. They run faster and faster on a treadmill going nowhere, hoping more speed will finally deliver them to happiness. But you can step off. You can decide that your life doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be deeply meaningful. In fact, perhaps the greatest gift of growing older is realizing that the only person you truly need to impress is the one you see in the mirror each morning. And when that person smiles back at you, content and unburdened by false comparisons, you'll know you're finally living your life, not someone else's. Fearing change more than stagnation. There comes a subtle shift after 40. For many, it's almost invisible at first, a slight tightening in the chest when faced with something new, a reflexive preference for the familiar over the unknown. They start to tell themselves it's just practicality, that stability matters more now. But beneath this surface logic often lies a deeper truth. They have begun to fear change more than they fear standing still. It's understandable. By the time you reach 40, you've likely weathered enough storms to know that not all change is pleasant. You may have lived through heartbreaks, career upheavals, financial strains, the death of loved ones. You've seen how quickly life can turn, and so your instinct becomes self-protection. Keep things steady. Avoid unnecessary risks. Stay where it's comfortable. But here's the quiet tragedy. Stagnation rarely feels dangerous in the moment. It disguises itself as security. Only later does its cost become clear in the form of dull routines, passions that fade to gray, relationships that grow stale, dreams that slowly evaporate. Many people fail after 40 not because change breaks them, but because they've become so paralyzed by the idea of change that they allow life to calcify around them. Ask yourself this: when did you last do something that made you genuinely uncomfortable? Not because it was wrong, but because it stretched you. Was it years ago? Decades? Change is the natural rhythm of life. Seasons shift. Children grow up. Bodies age. Industries evolve. To resist change is to resist life itself. Yet so many after 40 clutch to sameness as though it could somehow guard them against pain. Ironically, this clinging often invites a different kind of pain, the quiet ache of unrealized potential. Think of water that doesn't move. Over time, it grows stagnant, murky, unfit to drink. Movement keeps it fresh, vibrant, life-giving. The same is true for your spirit. Staying open to change, even seeking it out, is what keeps you alive inside, no matter what the calendar says. Consider the people who continue to flourish well into their later years. They are not necessarily the ones who avoided difficulty, but those who adapted, who found new purposes when old ones ended, who didn't let fear dictate the entire story. They changed careers, moved cities, started relationships, ended relationships, went back to school, learned new skills, traveled somewhere completely out of their comfort zone. They were willing to let go of one chapter so the next could begin. Does that mean change is always easy or glamorous? Of course not. Sometimes it's deeply uncomfortable. Sometimes it means starting over when you thought you were settled. Sometimes it's lonely. But more often than not, it's exactly where growth waits. It's where dormant parts of you awaken, where hidden strengths reveal themselves. Think of a forest after a fire. It looks devastated, blackened, lifeless. Yet beneath the ashes, seeds are waiting, triggered by the very heat of destruction to sprout anew. Without change, even painful change, the forest would never regenerate. So what about you? What old patterns or comforts are you clinging to out of fear? Is there a job you've outgrown but are too afraid to leave? A lifestyle that no longer aligns with your values but feels too risky to alter? A part of yourself you've silenced because it doesn't fit the stable image you project to the world? Imagine instead welcoming change like a guest, sometimes awkward, sometimes demanding, but always capable of bringing unexpected gifts. Imagine saying yes to opportunities that make your heart race, to challenges that might just redefine what you believe about yourself. Many fail after 40 because they see change only as a threat to the life they've built. But in truth, change is often the very thing that breathes new vitality into that life. It keeps your soul supple, your mind engaged, your days touched by a sense of possibility. So let yourself be a little scared. Let your stomach flip with uncertainty. Let your carefully laid plans be disrupted by something new. Because the alternative, staying perfectly still while time rolls on, is far more frightening. In the end, life isn't meant to be preserved in amber. It's meant to be lived, dynamically, even messily. And embracing change, again and again, is how you ensure that your story remains vibrant, no matter how many years have already been written. Forgetting the importance of financial wisdom, there's a quiet illusion that grips many people in their 40s. The idea that because you're earning more than you did in your 20s, your financial worries are behind you. Promotions come, salaries rise, your lifestyle expands to match, and you begin to think you've outrun the uncertainties that once kept you up at night. But money, unmanaged and misunderstood, is like sand slipping through your fingers. And for countless people, this oversight becomes a devastating reason they fail after 40. Not always dramatically, with bankruptcies or foreclosure. Sometimes it's far subtler, an undercurrent of stress, a life built on fragile debts, a future that feels insecure despite decades of hard work. Why does this happen? Partly because many people spend their 20s and 30s in a rush to acquire. They chase bigger homes, newer cars, extravagant vacations. They compare themselves to friends who seem to have more, and so they stretch their finances thin to keep up. Credit cards get swiped, loans accumulate, and savings become an afterthought. By 40, these habits are deeply ingrained. Even with higher income, expenses balloon to meet it. And all too often, the mindset doesn't shift from earning more to managing wisely. It's only when children near college age, when retirement creeps closer, or when a health scare hits, that the vulnerability of their financial choices becomes glaringly clear. Consider this. How many people do you know who appear prosperous, nice house, 2 new cars, luxury vacations, yet privately admit to living paycheck to paycheck? How many have no safety net if their income stops for even a few months? It's more common than you might believe, and it's one of the great unspoken stresses of midlife. Financial wisdom after 40 isn't just about how much you earn, it's about how intentionally you use what you have. It's understanding that money is a tool, not a trophy. It's choosing delayed gratification over fleeting pleasure. It's ensuring that your future self will thank you, not curse you, for the decisions you make today. So why is this so hard? Perhaps because we live in a culture that celebrates spending but whispers about saving. Advertisements tell you that you deserve luxury, that more is better, that happiness can be bought. Social media reinforces this, flooding your feed with curated glimpses of other people's apparent affluence. It takes a rare kind of inner strength to step back and say, what do I truly value? Maybe it's security, freedom from debt, the ability to retire without fear. Maybe it's traveling the world modestly rather than buying status symbols. Maybe it's having enough tucked away to help your children without jeopardizing your own well-being. Financial wisdom also means preparing for life's unpredictabilities. A medical crisis, a job loss, an aging parent who needs your help. These aren't dark fantasies. They are statistically probable events. Yet so many people leave themselves vulnerable. assuming that the steady flow of income will continue indefinitely. Imagine how differently you might sleep at night, knowing you have 6 months of expenses saved, insurance that truly protects you, investments growing quietly in the background. Imagine making choices from a place of security rather than desperation. This peace, this silent, steadfast comfort is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself after 40. Of course, it's never too late. Even if you've spent years neglecting your finances, small changes today can compound into meaningful stability tomorrow. Start by truly understanding where your money goes. Build a simple budget not to restrict you, but to empower you. Pay down debts, not because it's glamorous, but because it's liberating. Learn about investing, however modestly, so your money begins to work for you. Most importantly, redefine wealth. It isn't flashy cars or giant houses that stretch you thin. Real wealth is freedom. It's the ability to choose how you spend your time, to weather unexpected storms, to retire with dignity. It's knowing that if you walked away from your job tomorrow, your world wouldn't immediately collapse. So, pause for a moment and reflect. Are your financial habits truly aligned with your deepest values? Or are they guided by unexamined desires and outside pressures? Many people fail after 40 because they never make this pivot. They keep chasing more income instead of learning how to master what they already have. They reach 50 or 60 and realize, painfully, that while their lives were full of things, they were empty of lasting security. Choose differently. Begin today, even in small ways. Because financial wisdom is less about the numbers in your account and more about the peace in your heart, a quiet assurance that your life is built on a solid foundation, ready to carry you wherever your dreams and later years may lead. Underestimating the power of inner peace. Pause for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel it rise in your chest. Linger, then drift gently out. This simple act of being fully present with yourself is a glimpse of inner peace. And yet, for many people after 40, it remains a foreign, almost elusive state. Why is that? Because so much of midlife is consumed by outward striving. By this age, you've likely accumulated a long list of roles: employee or employer, parent, spouse, caretaker, community member. Each carries its own demands and expectations, pulling your attention in countless directions. In the frantic dance to fulfill them all, your inner world often becomes the most neglected space of all. It's a paradox. You work tirelessly to build a secure, meaningful life, only to discover that the very pursuit has left your soul restless, your mind crowded, your spirit weary. Many people fail after 40 not due to a lack of achievements, but because they've underestimated just how vital it is to cultivate peace within themselves. Consider this. What good is a beautiful house if your thoughts are in constant turmoil? What joy is there in a high salary if anxiety keeps you awake night after night? How fulfilling can even love be if you're so tangled in self-doubt and unresolved wounds that you cannot truly receive it? Inner peace is not a luxury for the fortunate or the naive. It's a profound necessity, the soil from which all other joys and accomplishments draw their nourishment. Without it, life becomes a hollow performance. With it, even simple moments shine with extraordinary depth. So what steals this peace? Often it's our own thoughts, ruminations about past mistakes, relentless worries about the future, harsh judgments of ourselves and others. We live entangled in mental stories, most of which never come true or were never entirely real to begin with. Sometimes it's our refusal to accept reality as it is. We fight against aging, against the imperfections of our loved ones, against the unpredictable nature of existence itself. We believe we'll finally be at ease once everything falls perfectly into place, but it rarely does, at least not for long. And so peace is forever postponed. Yet the greatest irony is this: peace is always available, here and now. Not as a final prize for having solved all of life's puzzles, but as a practice, a daily, even moment-to-moment choice to return to the present, to breathe, to let go of what we cannot control. Imagine what life could feel like if you nurtured this kind of inner calm, if setbacks didn't unravel you, if other people's opinions lost their power to wound, if you could savor small beauties: a bird outside your window, laughter over dinner, the softness of your own bed at night, without 1,000 restless thoughts intruding. Inner peace also makes you stronger. It's not passivity. In fact, a tranquil heart allows you to face challenges with clear eyes and steady hands. You respond rather than react. You listen deeply instead of jumping to defend. You're less driven by fear, more guided by what truly matters. How do you cultivate it? For some, it's through meditation or prayer. For others, it's long walks in nature, journaling, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea, letting the mind unclench. It's also learning to forgive, not necessarily because someone deserves it, but because your own heart deserves to be free. It's dropping the need to always be right, always be busy, always be striving. Many people fail after 40 because they continue to look outward for peace. They change jobs, buy new homes, seek new partners, hoping these will quiet the storms inside. Sometimes external changes help, but only if accompanied by an inner shift. Otherwise, the same old patterns follow them into every new circumstance. So pause here one more time. Take another slow, generous breath. Ask yourself gently, what would it take for me to be truly at peace? Not next year, not when every problem is solved, but right here, in this imperfect, beautiful, fleeting moment. You might find the answer is simpler than you imagined. Less about fixing everything, more about accepting, loving, and being present with it all. Because at the end of the day, the deepest failure is to reach the later chapters of your life surrounded by accomplishments, yet unable to sit quietly with your own soul and feel at home. Choose instead to cultivate this precious inner sanctuary. Let it become the steady heart of your days, the soft place you return to, no matter what the world brings. In doing so, you won't just avoid failing after 40, you'll discover a richness and contentment that many chase all their lives but never quite find. Thank you for guiding me through this journey. That completes all 10 sections of your script on why most people fail miserably after 40. If you'd like, I can now craft a powerful intro, opening hook for the entire video to draw viewers in, a thoughtful closing summary with a call to reflection, or anything else you might need, such as rewriting specific sections, adding quotes, or providing a suggested voiceover pacing. Just tell me what you'd like next.